I'm going to cook you one of my absolute favourite cuts of meat, and that is a beef fillet. I'm going to cook the tenderloin with a gorgeous pistachio crumb. So let me show you that first. I've just got some nice rosemary and some fresh thyme. Again, you can use dried herbs here, but you know, if you've got rosemary in your garden, this is a perfect use for it. We want those kind of really hardy kind of herbs. I really love rosemary and thyme is just such a classic combination, and it works really well with a rich meat. So don't think about your rosemary as only going with lamb. It works perfectly with game meats and with our beef today. So just give that a bit of a chop. And I've got to guess about a tablespoon of each there. And it goes into my bowl with some nicely minced garlic, clove too, depending how much you love your garlic. And here's my chopped pistachios. In they go, along with a good glug, enough extra virgin olive oil to make this into a paste. I'm going to add a pinch of salt and some black pepper. Give that a mix, and you see it turns into this kind of lovely, nutty, garlicky, herby paste. Okay, I can set that aside for a second. I'm going to keep my pan and check out this beauty. That is just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous cut of meat. This is the kind of cut I want when I like to eat it rare. Now, you can buy the whole piece like I've got here. This is what I've cut the piece from. So I'm going to just drizzle a little bit of oil and rub the oil over the surface of my meat and add just a touch of salt before I cook it. And I'm just going to sear it, and we're finishing it in the oven, but I want to sear the outside before we add that pistachio crumb topping. So into my hot pan it goes. So I don't want to cook the meat all the way through. I'm literally just searing the outside all over on every side. Now, while that meat's searing, we can just prepare our veggies. So in here, I've got some lovely just quarters of red onion. I've got a sweet potato that I've scrubbed, but I'm leaving the skin on. So this is a nice purple outside skin, and we'll just cut that into cubes. So I like the texture and the taste. Slightly different taste to the more common, I guess, orange sweet potatoes. Add that to our bowl, along with some zucchini and carrot. Another good drizzle of extra virgin olive oil and some salt. And I'm going to use these same herbs. So add in some rosemary and some thyme. The fresh parsley I'm going to keep for right at the very end. So just our more robust herbs are going in at this point in time. Let me just turn that beef one more time. And see how it's just beautifully caramelizing slightly onto the outside, on the surface of that meat. Great, we'll give that a toss. I'm just going to use my hands, actually, to let the oil nicely coat all the veggies. So this meat is looking absolutely delicious, and I can turn this off. So I have just lined a baking tray with a little bit of Glad Bake, so nothing sticks. And we're going to pop our beef tenderloin. And here's when we add the pistachio crumb that we prepared. So just press it into the top of your piece of meat. And just press a little bit with the spoon or with your fingers to nicely coat just the top surface of that meat. Lovely. And then we scatter the veggies around the outside. Now, the best way to make sure you get that meat absolutely perfect is to use a temperature probe. Now, this is a lean cut of meat, so I would suggest enjoying it rare or medium rare. Now, you see I've got some tomatoes here too. I'm going to pop this into the oven for about 20 minutes or so, but I only want to add my tomatoes for the last few minutes so that they don't overcook. my meat is looking lovely. I've let that rest for 10 minutes, and I can't stress to you how important that is to do that, especially when you're cooking a big cut of meat like this. Now, what I want to do is serve it on my platter in the middle of the table. So all I'm going to do is cut it into fairly thick slices. And look at that meat. Superbly lean, beautifully cooked. The crunchy pistachio crumb topping. Don't worry if it starts falling off a little bit. I'm just going to pick that up, scatter it back over the top of the meat. I love to serve food when I'm entertaining especially. I love to just be able to put food down on platters in the middle of the table, let everyone help themselves, and then you can do a number of different salads and sides and whatever you want to go with it. And then just pop the meat into the middle of the platter. Don't lose any of your pistachio crumb. You can just scatter that over the top. And then finally, so those tomatoes have just softened. You can see why I added those last to the pan. They've just softened, but they haven't disintegrated, which will happen if you overcook the tomatoes in the oven. And I would do a separate little bowl of, just some steamed greens. Yum. And then the last thing, remember, we had our balsamic glaze. Now, you can buy, of course, balsamic glaze, but it's really, really easy to make yourself. That was just some balsamic vinegar with some maple syrup, or you could pop in some honey. And I just reduced it down in a saucepan until it's nice and thick. And then we just poured a little of that over the top. And finally, some fresh parsley to finish. I reckon your guests are going to be pretty happy with that meal.